The summer road trip had started like any other. The air was thick with the scent of gasoline and fast food wrappers, the car packed with luggage and snacks. Jake sat in the back seat, staring out at the endless stretch of highway, his mind drifting in and out of daydreams. His parents, Greg and Linda, were laughing about something up front, probably another one of their inside jokes that he never understood. "All right, Jake, stretch your legs. We're stopping for gas," his father announced as he pulled into a small, run-down gas station in the middle of nowhere. The neon sign flickered weakly, and the convenience store attached to the station looked like it hadn't been updated in decades. Jake unbuckled his seatbelt and stepped out, feeling the heat of the pavement through his sneakers. He stretched, glancing around. The place was nearly empty, just a bored-looking cashier behind the glass and an old man filling up his truck. Nothing unusual. His mom smirked at his dad, whispering something before they both burst into laughter. Jake barely paid attention. He was used to their weird sense of humor. "I'll grab some snacks," his mom called as she walked toward the store. His dad pumped gas, humming to himself. Jake wandered toward the vending machine, fishing out a few coins. As he debated between a bag of chips and a candy bar, he heard the car doors slam shut. Then the sound of the engine revving. He turned just in time to see the car rolling forward. His dad waved at him through the window, a mischievous grin on his face. "Let's see how long it takes him to get home," his mom shouted through the open window, laughing hysterically. Jake took a step forward, blinking in disbelief. They were joking, right? The car sped off. His stomach dropped. The vending machine forgotten, Jake sprinted toward the road, waving his arms. "Mom! Dad!" His voice cracked as the car disappeared into the horizon, leaving behind only a trail of dust and the distant echo of their laughter. For a few seconds, he stood there, frozen, waiting for them to turn around, to come back, to say, "Gotcha." But the minutes stretched on. Then an hour. Then another. They weren't coming back. The sky darkened, the buzzing streetlights flickering to life. The gas station cashier shot him a few glances but didn't say a word. To them, he was just another kid waiting for his ride. Panic clawed at his chest. His phone, it was in the car. He had no money except for a couple of quarters. He didn't even know where they were. Jake swallowed hard, his throat dry. "They left me." As a joke. But the joke wasn't funny anymore. And for the first time in his life, Jake realized, he was truly alone. Jake sat on the curb outside the gas station, his knees drawn to his chest. The once warm pavement had cooled under the night sky, but the cold settling in his bones wasn't from the weather, it was from the realization that his parents weren't coming back. The gas station lights buzzed above him, flickering on and off. Inside the small convenience store, the cashier was flipping through a magazine, completely indifferent to the lost boy outside. Cars came and went, people refueling and continuing their journeys, none of them sparing Jake more than a passing glance. His stomach growled. He hadn't eaten since that morning. The vending machine was only a few feet away, filled with candy bars and chips, but what good was it if he had no money? He swallowed the lump in his throat. "Think, Jake. Think." He forced himself to his feet and walked into the store, the chime above the door ringing as he stepped inside. The air smelled of cheap coffee and stale cigarettes. He hesitated before approaching the counter. Excuse me." His voice came out smaller than he wanted. The cashier, a tired-looking man in his late 40s, barely glanced up. "What?" Jake shifted uncomfortably. "Can I, use your phone?" The man finally looked up, giving Jake a once-over. His expression hardened. "Buy something first." Jake's stomach twisted. I don't have any money." The man scoffed. "Then I don't have a phone." He went back to his magazine. Jake's fingers curled into fists. He felt the sting of tears threatening to form but blinked them away. He couldn't cry. Not here. Not now. He turned and walked out, back into the night. The gas station felt different now, bigger, emptier, lonelier. The cars passing by on the highway were nothing but streaks of light in the dark, heading somewhere he couldn't follow. He thought about walking, but to where? He had no idea how far they had traveled. Were they close to home? Or were they hundreds of miles away? They left me. The words echoed in his head like a cruel joke. He sat back down, pulling his hoodie tighter around himself. He could wait. They would come back eventually. Wouldn't they? Hours passed. No one came. Somewhere around midnight, the reality hit him like a punch to the gut. This wasn't a joke anymore. His parents weren't coming back. His chest tightened. What if they had forgotten? What if they got home, laughed about it, and then just moved on? The thought made his stomach churn. He needed to do something. He needed help. Glancing around, he spotted a truck parked near the pumps. The driver, a burly man with a scruffy beard, was leaning against his rig, sipping from a thermos. He looked rough, but right now, Jake didn't have the luxury of being picky. Taking a deep breath, he walked up to him. "Excuse me, sir." The man turned, looking down at him with narrowed eyes. "Yeah." Jake hesitated. I think my parents forgot me here. I don't have a phone or money. Do you know how far we are from?" He stopped. He didn't even know how to finish the sentence. The trucker studied him for a long moment. "Forgot you?" His voice was gruff, skeptical. Jake nodded, trying to keep his voice steady. "Yeah, as a joke. But they haven't come back." The man let out a slow whistle. "Damn. That's messed up." Jake swallowed. "Can you help me? Maybe call someone?" The trucker took another sip of his drink, his expression unreadable. Then he let out a sigh. "All right, kid. Hop in. I'll take you to the next town. Maybe someone there can help you out." Relief flooded through Jake, but there was still a knot of unease in his stomach. He didn't know this man. But what choice did he have? As he climbed into the truck's passenger seat, one thought burned in his mind. Wherever I end up, it's still better than waiting for parents who aren't coming back. The truck rumbled down the dark highway, the steady hum of the engine filling the silence between Jake and the driver. "You got a name, kid?" the trucker asked, eyes fixed on the road. "Jake," he said quietly. "Name's Tom." The trucker took another sip from his thermos before glancing at him. "How old are you?" 10. Tom let out a long breath. "Damn. And they just left you?" Jake swallowed, his fingers gripping the seatbelt strap. It was a joke. But even as he said it, the words tasted bitter. Tom shook his head. Some joke. For the first time since the prank, Jake felt something new, validation. Someone who wasn't laughing, who wasn't dismissing it as a harmless trick. Someone who saw it for what it really was. Tom didn't take him to the police. Not yet. "I know a lady," he said as they pulled into the next town, a small diner glowing with neon signs. "She's good with kids. She'll know what to do." The woman, Maria, was the owner of the diner. She took one look at Jake, his tired eyes, the way he held himself like he was afraid to take up space, and pulled him into the warmth of her cafe. She fed him, let him use the phone, and gave him a place to sleep in the small staff room in the back. But when she dialed the number Jake gave her, there was no answer. Not that night. Not the next morning. Not the next week. No one came looking. Jake stopped expecting them to. Growing up without them. Jake stayed in town. Tom visited often, checking in on him. Maria helped him enroll in school, gave him small jobs at the diner to earn his keep. Years passed. At 18, he moved out on his own. At 22, he started his own small business. By 30, he was successful, financially stable, and completely independent. And then, one morning, his phone buzzed. 40 missed calls. He stared at the screen, his heart pounding. The same unknown number, over and over again. Then a text. "Jake, please pick up. It's Mom." His hands clenched into fists. "Mom. After 20 years. Another text. "We've been looking for you. Please, son. We're so sorry. Can we meet?" The anger hit him first. Then the disbelief. They were looking for him. Now. After 20 years of silence. After 20 years of pretending he didn't exist. He could have died. He could have been lost forever. And they hadn't even checked. He stared at the screen, his chest tight with emotions he wasn't ready to deal with. The phone rang again. His finger hovered over the answer button. But he didn't press it. Instead, he blocked the number. And for the first time in 20 years, Jake chose himself.